SATSANG 4. Extract, Scalar Waves. Quebec, December 5, 2019. So we're going to talk, before you start asking questions, about scalar waves, okay? You saw, we brought back scalar wave ergonite patches, and there are questions about scalar waves. I'm far from being a specialist in scalar waves. I'm not a specialist in electronics, but I have nevertheless understood a certain number of things. So, the big difference is that everything that we feel, perceive, see, the activity of consciousness, the activity of the brain and the heart, are related to polarity or, if you prefer, to what is called electromagnetism. When you see a color, it is a wavelength, everything is wavelengths, a sound, the brain emits wavelengths, our thoughts are wavelengths, even if we do not yet know how to measure them perfectly. But, the characteristic of these waves is what we call sinusoidal waves, with frequencies. When you say, for example, red is such and such a frequency, but we know that these waves range from radar waves called millimeter waves, in terms of frequency, to waves such as the Schumann resonance, a sine wave whose basic frequency is 8 Hz, that is to say 8 cycles per second. These waves are polarized, that is, there is a positive and a negative pole. This is what we call wave propagation, like the acoustic wave as well, in a sinusoidal manner, that is to say, it carries polarity, that is to say duality. The characteristic of the scalar wave is that it is a wave that propagates either longitudinally or spirally, but without polarity. Scalar waves propagate to infinity. They are said to carry information which, of course, is the information of time zero, the double terrace that we have in the heart. A lot of research is currently being carried out on what are called quantum therapies and in particular on scalar waves, because indeed, as we are living with a gape, when there is a gape, the miracle, the healings occur without anyone having asked for anything. The first work was carried out in France at the beginning of the 20th century by a gentleman who created what are known as electronic oscillators, therefore linked to electricity, therefore with electric current which, I would remind you, is polarized. He created what we call oscillating circuits. These oscillating circuits at the beginning, it was simply an open copper loop, with an opening to the north, and he supplied this circuit with current. It generated what we call microwaves, or if you like, a palette of frequencies, which we also call grace frequencies, which is the song of the universe, that is, there are all the frequencies and all the harmonics. That's what a Tesla coil, for example, does, copper coils. So that gentleman was Mr. Larkovsky. Today, you have a lot of these circuits that the electronic engineers used to heal. Here we are in the quantum, that is to say we are moving from electromagnetism, that is to say duality, to the information of the ultimate causal field of physics. Evidently, we can distinguish two cases. What we call active circuits, that is to say that you have an oscillating circuit or a geometric design, we will see which ones afterwards, which generates a scalar, passive wave. When you power it electrically, it becomes active. The scalar wave is also emitted passively by what are called shape waves, or shape effect waves. A pyramid is a shape wave. The particularity of the shape wave is that it remains in permanent time. It makes it possible to structure energy on extremely long time scales, and therefore to induce modifications. So in radionics we use various waves of shape, protection, resonance, not only the Larkovsky oscillating circuits. In fact, you have for sale, and I think Annabelle will say a few words about this, technologies, in short, printed circuits, we will say, on motherboards, which exist, using this Larkovsky oscillating circuit, in a passive way, that is to say without electrical emission, which have real effects, because they give the cell information of zero time. And when the cell receives the information of zero time as Larkovsky proved at the beginning of the 20th century, with active antennas, this is what we called the prior machine, we had immediate cures of cancer. It's the truth, the works were confiscated, I had a chance to access these works, it was the machine the Priory, which was installed in Bordeaux at the beginning of the 20th century and which treated all cancers, provided they were not very deep, because afterwards there was a problem of penetration of the wave, even if the scalar wave is not stopped by anything, it is deviated by electromagnetism, by duality, of course. But, therefore, a lot of researchers have been interested in these scalar waves, and beyond the Larkovsky oscillating circuit, we reproduce on an electronic motherboard. It's a piece of plastic. They have engraved circuits that have different shapes. The most important scalar field, I am not talking about the electromagnetic field of the heart, which is also the most important in the body, but the heart emits, when you reactivate time zero, the heart of the heart, as it has been called, you generate, as I explained, a double, which is around the heart, which is real, which is known, but there it becomes efficient. Of course, it is amplified, that is what explains what you feel, the compressions, the heat, what has been called the fire of the sacred heart, the crystal pains in the back, the palpitations, the heart that bursts. It's all related to the activation of ground zero. This double terrace is reproduced on the ergonites that you bought, the paint patches. You see the drawing, this is the two-dimensional setting of the double terrace. It has nothing to do with the flower of life. I remind you, and this was said by Ron many years ago, the flower of life is falsified. The true flower of life does not contain 6 circles, but 15 circles. So everything that has been brought up to date by Drunvalo-Melchizedek is false. The flower of life, and God knows that we see jewels in the flower of life, crystallizes life and fossilizes life, like the pyramids. The purpose of the pyramids on Earth was to enclose the planet. The arrangement, regardless of the shape of the icons that was blackballed, that closed time, when you put a waveform, remember, there is a notion of duration. What is called the shape wave acts on a notion of time that extends over thousands of years. When you have constructions, and I also invite you to look at Pierre de Catawan, the famous Quebecer we were talking about, particularly on his side in Cape Placé, you'll see that there is a particular architecture on Earth. This architecture, which has been called sacred, is completely diabolical. One example, just one, and you will have visual proof. You go to Google Maps. You look at Google Maps, you look at the Pyramid of the Sun, seen from above, Teotihuacan, Mexico. And then you type, the school where there was the massacre in the United States, in Sandy Hook. You go to Google Maps, Sandy Hook. And you will see that this school where the massacre took place, which is an ancient Masonic temple, has exactly the same constitution as the Temple of Quetzalcoatl and the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico. Pyramids, no matter how much light they accumulate, are places of confinement. In fact, if you have used the pyramid-shaped wave, you know very well that it fossilizes food. It's not evidence of anything that sustains life that. There, it is the same for the flower of life, in any case that of Drunvalo-Melchizedek, and yet it is diffused ad infinitum. So, let's go back to our scalar waves. Our scalar waves, we have the Larkovsky oscillating circuit, we have the double terrace, whether the printed circuit is made of copper, gold-plated or other material, which will generate a scalar wave, passive and not active. Because when we talk about an active scalar wave, there have to be 2 antennas. We install a patient between 2 antennas, whether it is the Larkovsky oscillating circuit or a scalar field, and we feed it electrically. Today, for me, all of this is superfluous because I have tested these circuits, and the passive shape you have around your neck, or the Polaris system you have in Canada, which Annabelle will tell you about, have this passive efficiency simply by the shape effect. But the shape effect, as time is dissolving, there's no longer a need to wait thousands of years, so these systems are going to become more and more efficient as zero time is approaching. And you have all seen it, whether it is with the patches. If you have tested on boo-boos, I have done it on a tendinitis. I placed the patches, 2 minutes, no more inflammation. Sister, right. It's true. And it is reinforced, of course, by the ergonite, but I showed you also Polaris, where the Larkovsky plates I showed you work without ergonite and without power supply. The ergonite will, of course, increase tenfold, by the metals that are present inside, the minerals and the resin itself, will increase the potential of the system. So these scalar waves, there are several of them. Others have been discovered. You have, for example, what is called the Tesseract circuit, named after the inventor. I gave you the name of a site where you could see all these shapes, because it is indeed the Eastern countries that are the most advanced in scalar wave therapies and in what are called shape effect waves. And you have different shapes. You have the double terrace that is there, that is put on the printed circuit. You have other geometric shapes, in particular a shape where you have 12 points, like the 12 stars, each point being connected to the other 11. It draws a geometric figure called the tesseract wave, which generates a scalar field that is not spiral, but which is concentrated longitudinally, that is to say on the point. There, what you have with the double terrace, what we call Flanagan's terrace, the drawing you have, will generate a spiral scalar field, that is to say one that will widen. The tesseract, for example, which is also a longitudinal scalar wave, this time emits linear radiation at the center of the device. It is not the same effect, but it is also a scalar wave, of course. So there are several, I can't go into more detail, because there are so many shapes. The Larkovsky, Polaris, for example, works very well, too, but it's not a pure scalar wave. There is a scalar wave, but even if it is passive, that is to say not powered, there is also, with the circuits, with the open copper circles that are repeated 9 or 10 times, I believe, you also have a wave with a shape effect that is mixed. In the shape effect wave of the tesseract, of the Flanagan that you have there, you don't have the tesseract, you have the Flanagan. The terrace that is generated is recognized by the hard right away, is recognized by your cells right away. Whether it's copper, whether it's gold-plated, whether they put in the gold number in relation to the number of circles and the opening, it doesn't matter, it's details. But, that's what scalar waves are, they carry the information of zero time. I remind you that all living cells are all carriers of zero time. A cell, when it is going to divide, without going into the biological details it would take too long, you may remember, that the chromosomes are in the middle of the nucleus and will separate for cell division. But in order for them to separate and get to the center, you have two types of organelles that are next to the nucleus, that vibrate. That's what it is when we measure the vibration of the cells, we measure the vibration of these famous organelles called synnetrioles. These synnetrioles have movements like that, in opposition of phase. We have known for a long time in physics that when you have two objects of the same mass, of the same shape, of the same constitution, which have the same movement in phase opposition, that is to say that one rotates or oscillates in levo-rotatory mode, and the other in dextro-rotatory mode, that is to say clockwise, in the middle of these two objects, you have the ultimate causal field of physics, time zero. That is, a cell can only divide if it reaches time zero. The time base of the cell is related to the silica, to the quartz, it gives the time base to the cell and that is what constitutes the synnetrioles. In each synnetriole there is the silicon dioxide nucleus, as in electronic circuits, as in quartz watches, as in computers. The frequency of quartz is perfectly known, it is 58 kHz, it is the fundamental frequency of the cells. Of course, afterwards, we measure with a pendulum, for example, a lecture antenna, we are able to measure in Bevis units the vibration of an individual. That's what they say. That is the truth. But all cells, time zero is written not only in the heart of the heart, but in all living cells, not only in humans, but in plants as well. If there was no time referencing, and brought back to time zero, what's going on? Cancer. In cancer, in all solid tumors, the synnetrioles are no longer in phase opposition, but rotate in the same direction. And at that point, there is cell proliferation. Mitosis, cell division, becomes anarchic. Cancer is an electrical phenomenon. The universe is electric, not electromagnetic. Electromagnetism is the result of confinement. Time zero is somehow linked to the scalar wave. The scalar wave is carried by what is called the neutrino, of zero charge. We know that the neutrino can travel at a speed faster than the speed of light. It's the principle of quantum physics, at this point it's called a tachyon. You'll see this word, there are people who say we use tachyonic energy. It joins the scalar waves. But it is much simpler with the scalar circuits you have here, I have tested them, I observe absolutely incredible results, on many things and not only, as it has been called, pain patches, because, quite simply, it will give back the information of zero time, quite simply. So there are countless systems out there. The scalar wave is that which propagates without polarity and without duality and which propagates to infinity, through the ultimate causal field of physics. Astrophysicists have just discovered that there is a force, which is not the fifth force which is gravity. They have not found the equations yet, but an unknown force which holds the universes together and which demonstrates, through what is known as the Dirac equation, that all galaxies, even several billion light-years apart, are all interconnected. This is what is known as string theory, quantum interleaving, or quantum entanglement. We are one, we are all within each other. It is true at the level of the cosmos, and it is true at the level of all living things, not only between humans on Earth or with the brothers in space. But life is a process of quantum entanglement. And this is in line with what I was telling you. Everything had to be connected in order to realize the deception of creation. Today, and I posted an article this morning, from a Buddhist monk who, having practiced Douglas Harding's headless vision technique, comes to the same conclusion. Consciousness is a total illusion. And one joins the teaching of Nisargadatta, and one joins the teaching of living, for those who live agape. Consciousness is a disease, spirituality is a total fraud, there is only life and there is only absolute truth. We're in a dream, we're in a computer simulation, since it is binary, and the same is true for all creation. It is not a question of believing me, because it will mean nothing. On the other hand, if you accept it, as we have said, you will live it because the information of the good news, the light is there, but the information of zero time is everywhere, it is accessible. What I was telling you, when you meet people, you can do it with channelings, you can do it with the exercises at the eternally breathing movement, use crystals, but as soon as you're available to do what needs to be done, it could be belly dancing, you would be in a gape too. Because the good news is here. So there it is. I'm not going to talk more about the aragonites I brought, which are made by my friend in France, but Madeline is going to talk about something that is perhaps easier, even if it's not the same prices, a system that exists in Canada, that she uses. She has brought a few of them with her. Sister. Yes. You don't touch the microphone. Sister. No. I knew that 3 years ago in an advertisement in the magazine Natalia. I'm not used to believing anything, but I had so many physical problems that I said to myself, I have nothing to lose, I'm going to get some, and it was miraculous for a lot of arthritic problems and all that. I got used to it and then I started like they explain, put it under a plant. So I had a poinsettia, I kept it for 2 years. It was as beautiful as the first day, it had become huge. After that, the water, they said to put it underneath the water and the water, it totally changes its taste. Then after that, they made us experiment with animals. So I have a cat and I can tell you that the cat I have, right now, he takes his Polaroid, he walks around the house with it, he lies down on it, I put it underneath his water dish. Sometimes I look for it, I have 4 of them, so I look for it, it's the cat that left with it. And then I talked to several people who bought some and indeed, as I was explaining to Jean-Luc this morning, they too had problems, because there was one person who said it wasn't healing. So they were prosecuted like everywhere else and they were not convicted. The only thing that had to be done was to remove them, because people were giving testimonies that they'd been cured of such and such a case and they were putting it on their website. There were videos and all that. The law forbids them to mark that they've been cured. Jean-Luc can explain it to you better than I can. It increases, I don't know what, and it allows the body to regenerate itself, the pain to go away and all that. So in the beginning, you have to go in moderation, even Veronica who has it, the people who started. The first day, I took the test, I kept it, I'm used to it now. I didn't take it off during the day, I didn't sleep a wink at night. Not at all, not for a second. I was like a bomb that wanted to explode. So I don't have any, I'm telling you about it because it was effective, and I know the person who sells them, who is a Serbian, and if she had known that there was this workshop, she would be with us because she says, I don't want it to be just a business to make money, we want to help humanity. So, she offered to give me 6 of them, she said, bring them, if you find something to sell, you'll sell them. Sandra bought 5 because she brings this to her family in Colombia. Because she's been experimenting, too. So, that's what I wanted to tell you. That I have 5, 6, if anybody wants them. I don't touch anything with it. I told Jean-Luc, I don't want to compete with, but that's not my fault. Sister, that's right. On the other hand, what we can say is that your system is called Polaris, you're going to show them. You have a site where you can see the shapes even without buying them, and you're going to realize that the price scales are crazy. That is to say that it's okay, it's even more expensive than the Polaris that you have. In Russia there is something called Keltsev plates. He's a great researcher. The plate costs 150 euros, that's $200. It costs 100. Sister, it's 80, with taxes it's 92. If you mail it in, you pay postage. And when you buy 5, she calls it gift of God, they give 1 free. So, you see, the prices are always the same. It's like crystals. You can find the same crystal for €1 in one place and €100 in another place. But then again, in terms of manufacturing costs, a motherboard costs nothing. After of course, there is all the marketing behind it, but also the information that is delivered on the website. I still give you a site where you can already see the images of these circuits. Because, for example, I showed you a Polaris disc, it costs such and such a price, but on the site, which is in Slovenia, which seems to be competent. All I have found so far, your oscillating circuit, even if it's a 10 cm Larkovsky, I showed it to you, it's worth €7, well. The small Larkovsky record, the small individual ones, you buy all 10, it's not even worth €2 each. You have the big ones for eobiology, since they make trays up to 30 centimeters, it costs €27, but I don't advise you to put that on you. Laughs. This is only valid, what we call an eobiology, because it will shine so brightly that you can't carry it with you. I told you, I had tendinitis the other time, I had tendinitis, the suitcases, I don't know what, it doesn't matter, I had put crystals on, of course, the pain went away, there was still inflammation, so these are pain patches and I saw the inflammation disappear before my eyes in 2 minutes. Just by putting the patch on for 2 minutes. By the way, she made them into patches, some people like to wear them, but be careful like you said, don't wear them all the time. It's very active, actually. The downside is, it doesn't do you any harm, but you're going to have a little trouble sleeping, among other things. Sister. Besides, you're gonna be a pile. Sister. They say don't even put it under our pillow. So I put the little ones that are 5 centimeters long, like you have Larkovsky, under the pillow, in my house. Extraordinary. Sister. Oh yes. Oh yes. Sister. I sleep with them, I have them in my bed, they stay there all the time. Yes. Try it like you said on plants, you'll see, it's surprising. Put a plant under a pyramid, I don't think it's doing well. Put a Larkovsky or Flanagan scalar wave oscillating circuit, you'll see immediate results. LD had tested with a Larkovsky oscillating circuit. It is not electroculture because there, you have to add another metal in the ground. There we had simply put on some plants, a single Larkovsky oscillating circuit, that is to say an open copper wire, whose opening was towards the north. We had a plant called, for example, the Heart of Mary that flowers in Catalonia in May, and we put it on a small piece of plant, our Larkovsky oscillating circuit with the opening to the north. Instantly, in a few days, there were no leaves, it made us a flower. So indeed, there are undeniable effects, scalar waves, it's starting to be understood, there are many researchers on this, but researchers like electronics, so they use active circuits, that is to say connected to the current. Sisters. Polarade. So, I'll give you the name of the site if you want to see, at least, these images. It's in Slovenia, they also deliver all over the world. If you want to have fun with this, with the plants and see what it does on you, it's exciting. They also have ergonites that I don't recommend, because they are much too small and they are much less beautiful than that. But printed circuit boards, electronic motherboards, you have different shapes. They also sell the wave of life, the flower of life of Drumvolomelchizk, but they sell the shape with 5 circles and not 15, so it is not good, that one. But it's very interesting. You have some researchers who had made videos to explain scalar waves, if you're interested, who will explain it to you much better than me. I don't pretend to know this in depth, but I can give you some information about it and, as Madeline says, I can actually see the surprising effects. But it's really surprising, I have no other word for it. And yet, I was a doctor for 25 years with crystals. It's something hyper-effective on a lot of things, but here, it's the ease with which the inflammation disappears, in 2 minutes. What? I've never seen anything like it. Sister, maybe just to add one more little thing, I have a carotid artery that is 100% blocked, and I contacted Dr. Tomic, and he came here to Quebec, and he said, if you use, not too long, in moderation, on your carotid artery, the circulation can increase up to 23.5%. And I don't have a problem with the carotid. But I am careful, I put it there and then, I was saying to Alexandra, I was even saying that to Jean Luc this morning, it's true, it's more expensive, there is a lot of advertising that is done and I think I should encourage someone here in Quebec since we're here. In any case, you do what you want, I'm just giving you the information. Thank you for that. I forgot to give the name of the site, it is called eplicum.com. Sister, I would like to know, is it also good for the psyche, that is, depressions? I don't know, I haven't tried it. I don't know, I haven't tried it. I have no idea. But it's obvious that if you put this waveform, it's a waveform, with, among other things, a passive circuit, whether it's the Larkovsky oscillating circuit or the Flanagan there, on the 7th chakra, you're obviously going to act on the hypothalamus, the pituitary, the rhythm of sleep and on depression. I guess. Check it out. You see, there, I was the first one surprised to see the inflammation disappear in 2 minutes right in front of my eyes. I don't know, you have to test it. Only your own experience there, too, will show you. Besides, it's not something that costs a lot of money. It's things that allow you to avoid having to pay a therapist and to be independent of that as well. Now, I don't pretend to say it cures cancer or anything like that, I don't know. But in the works that have been published, the first Larkovsky oscillating circuits and Pryor's machine, it was made to treat cancer, yes. And that's why they seized all the machines, why they shut everything down, because, of course, it went against the optics of the beginning of the 20th century and the chemical complex, which had created the chemical drugs. Sister, then Larkovsky had also created the antenna that allowed free electricity everywhere. Apparently, I don't know, I don't have confirmation, he was murdered according to Dr. Tomic. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any questions about the scalar wave? Yes, Dominique. Wait, in order. But when you come to ask questions, you come to ask them here. Sister, well, I'd like you to repeat what you told me about, because since Sunday, I have the medallion and then I have scalar waves 24 hours a day. And, the character disappears, forget it, no pain. For me, it's, sister, the apotheosis. Sister, total happiness. Sister, there is none, there are no words, so much, what that, I put it in one place, then there I make it take 10 minutes, effective, 20. You know, we did it at home at the head level, and I didn't change a thing. But my own dosage, that's it. Then you told me at home, oh, that's right, there's such a thing, the two of them together. Then I thought, maybe there are others elsewhere who feel the same dosage. But would you just tell me what it feels like, the fact of wearing them all the time, both of them like that? Well, the answer's going to be simple, I don't know. Chuckles. Sister. Well yes, you told me. It will simply activate the circuit between the first chakra and the heart. Sister. No, you explained other things to me. You say, it's true, scalar waves, that's it, there's that with it together, it passes that. Yes. It can do that, but it doesn't say the entanglement between the two. The pendant drop here, there's no scalar wave. It simply pacifies the heart, as we all said, as you've all seen, the people who bought these pendants. And then, well, Johanna had the idea of putting, with I don't know what, on the first chakra, so she put the patch on all the time. So she coupled time zero with the propagation of the scalar wave that is down there. And that makes you feel good. Now, I can't tell if it's reproducible. Sister. No, it's not. It's my own dosage. Yes, it is. Sister. What I do, I go up to each of the chakras, there I come home, just like there, I'm there. when I get home, I'll go up it, if that's how I feel, but for me it's so efficient. Sister, magic. The magic that comes only from the intelligence of light there, all of it, it can't be more than that. Well, that is, as I tell you, when I saw the tendinitis, sister, that's it. Yes, you will have the same one. I had asked Marie Veronique to make only with Flanagan's Terrace. Sister, she thinks I have 2 scalar waves. No, I don't have 2 scalar waves. No. That's not a scalar wave, that's not a scalar wave. That balances the double terrace. So, when you put it, the drop pendant there, on the heart, it's going to balance the 2 movements, the double terrace, one part of which is from the center of the heart to go to Chariste behind, going in a circle counterclockwise to the left and clockwise to the right. You're going to balance the double terrace, thus facilitating the 0 time. The other, on the other hand, generates a scalar wave. Now, what's happening inside, what has been done, now it's up to you. Johanna sees that it was a miracle. So, it's up to you to test. It's up to you to test it. It's as easy with the aragonite patches as if you had the Polaris or if you buy the simple records from Eplicon, which cost nothing. It's up to you to test it, but I did put one on the mattress to see how it changes things. I simply tried to put one on my keka to see what it feels like. It's surprising. But when you put your hand on it, I feel the energy. I've been working on it for years. When I put my hand on the Polaris or on the record, or on the aragonite, I don't feel the energy. It's not energy. You can't feel the shape wave. That's exactly why it's effective. It's not polarized. You see, it's not polarized. So when I put my hand in, I don't feel anything, but if I take a pendulum, yes, there, we'll find differences in Bevis units. Some of them will turn into what is called negative green. It has nothing to do with the negative, it's called dowsing. So there are significant differences between, for example, the Flanagan, the Tesseract, or the Larkovsky oscillating circuit. But at the level of efficiency, for me, it doesn't change anything. There is the same recognition by the living, okay? And that's what's important. It's not to measure how many vibrations it emits, it's the real efficiency. But I can't give you a recipe, it's up to you to test it. Well, considering the price of the records, have fun with them. You'll see, there's no danger. Unless, indeed, if you are very sensitive, to leave it too long, you'll have this effect of, you'll be hyperstimulated, powerfully. But this is real. Everybody feels it. Cats, as you say, your cat and, are very fond of it, because they, of course, smell these things. We're not equipped to feel the scalar wave. With a scalar wave of 0 time, that's us. Sister, when you came home, you had 3 bags with it, okay? And you remember, when Eves and I bought one, we settled into our armchairs. Yes, I remember. Sister, me, as I was in pain there, I put it there. Eves put it somewhere else. Do you remember what you said? Do you remember what you said then? I don't remember. Sister, you said, here the vibratory rate has just gone up. Just the fact that Eves and I, in a few seconds, had applied it on us. It's surprising, but it's true. If you like, it has surprising effects. Now, for me it's a discovery. I don't have the full scientific knowledge of those who have been working on it for 10 or 20 years. They work with active circuits. I am only talking about this passive form. So, it is a waveform that generates a scalar wave of the spiral or helical type, that rotates like that, and which is not polarized, and which is recognized by the body, by the mind, by the consciousness, that is all. Now it's up to you to experiment, to have fun. But I'm surprised at the speed, the efficiency, even compared to the crystals I've been practicing for 25 years. It is surprising. Really surprising. The crystals go through energy, vital, both. Because the crystal acts on the physical, on the etheric, on the mental up to the causal. There, with the scalar wave, we're beyond the causal. Ah yes, necessarily. Necessarily because we are at time 0. Sister, I have just said that earlier, as you had talked about at home, it made me settle into resonance. I did that. That made me, agape, spatial, interdimensional resonance, and then I was fine. A little before you started talking about the pyramids, I saw shapes. I saw a truncated pyramid that we call Then it scrolled, 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 scrolled without there being anything, nothing, no intention. And as you were talking, probably because of the zero time that's there was a bunch of things going by that I just observed, just let it go by. Then I said to myself, look, in the interdimensional space all that, here, me, the only intention I had was to place in this agape resonance. And then, I perceived it before you mentioned the pyramids, they started to pass through. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There were questions, I think, about scalar waves. Sister Jean, look, excuse me, could you talk about the Plaka audit from Veronique? Ah well yes. But no, it's simply, if you want, sister, which I am going to put in my house. It's a scalar wave that's 10 or 20 centimeters long, with a double aragonite, like you had in the drawing. The outer aragonite is charged with, which will absorb. And the other one is a hexagon, in which is the circle with the metals, gold, silver, copper and gold, silver, copper, zinc, several metals plus crystals. So it's a device that is a little more complex, because here you have the geometric shape of the Flanagan circuit, double terrace, much larger, you have at the same time a hexagonal shape, and then you have the circle. So, we are playing on much more complex forces. Sister, which we put in the house and which covers everything. Yes, especially not on yourself, in the house. Sister, not on yourself. In the house, it's good for the computers, everything that is, that's it. That's it. The very first one that I asked Marie Veronique to make and that I installed at a friend's house in Perpignan, had effects, phenomenal. I was the first to be surprised. Because, well, I also did a bit of eobiology when I was young. So I know a little bit about these things. And I've never seen an eobiological correction so fast. It's amazing. Now, I don't have an explanation, I just see. But I don't give a damn about the explanation is good for transmitting it, but already when you have something that works like that, it's incredible. Sister, we have nothing to lose by putting it on, like this, I'm going to an old people's home, I'm going to put it on in my apartment, it's okay. It glows very, very brightly. But, if you try to feel the energy with your hand, electric and magnetic on something like that, you don't feel anything. Because it is a waveform and the waveform of zero time is like when they say, the absolute is a consciousness, there is nothing to perceive and there is nothing to feel. It's as simple as that. Sister, we put it there and then we don't take care of it anymore. So, what is important is not the measurement of the Bevis units, to say, it vibrates so much or so much, we don't care. It's what it generates as information. Don't confuse information and energy, they're two different things. I'm not going to talk about information theory again, I've talked about it many times. Information is carried by energy, except for the information of zero time which is not carried by energy but by form. There were questions about scalar waves. Sister, I also saw, on the internet, it was marked, Functional State Controller, CEF. Controller? Sister, Functional State Controller, CEF. Then it's little plates like this and then it looks like it reminds me of this. Yes, there are lots of them. You know, so many things come out every day. Careful about that, the prices. Because it goes, as I said, from 5 to 10 or 20 times. Then there are justifications, for example, Polaris, there are all the materials, the coating, the site, the explanations, all the service behind it, of course. Applicant, there's no service, they sell you the stuff, they don't tell you anything. But they make them for most of the manufacturers in the world. There you go. Any questions about scalar waves before we move on? Brother Chuckles, I think instead of a controller, it might be a corrector. Sister, oh, yes. Brother, functional effect. Because me too, while looking for scalar waves, well you come across, they often talk, wait because no one can hear you now. You really have to come to the mic, I'm sorry. Otherwise, they get very frustrated afterwards, in the transcripts. Laughs. And Louis, he's trying hard to turn up the sound. Brother, that's it, as I was saying, that's it, it's functional effect corrector. That's what it is. Brother. Often, when you go to sites to look at scalar waves, it seems they take you into the vocabulary, functional effect corrector. Sister, status. Brother, functional state. Yes, that's indeed the word, I had heard it. Sister. Yes, functional status corrector. So, it's true that there's food and drink, as we say in French, there's a lot of crap on the internet. But there, on the scalar waves, yes, I was very surprised. So what is not at all scalar waves as understood by electronic engineers and researchers, because they work, as I said, with double antennas and with current. The difference between the active system, therefore, electrified, whether it is direct or alternating current, and the passive system where it is the form that acts. We're in agreement. Do you have any other questions about scalar waves, or shall we move on to general questions? Go ahead, general questions. Through Jean-Luc Young. Les transformations. English translation, LMF.